Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So we're delving back in with Warhammer Fantasy, the old world, once again, because it seems that we may not be revisiting the timeline where we left. For those of you who are unaware, the timeline that we left in was well, technically it was the end times and stuff like that, but before that, when the main game was set, it was Franz, you had, King Lewin of Bretonia, all the other big players around in the world as well. But there's some evidence now which is stating that this won't be taking place in that timeline. Actually, the evidence is pointing to that the timeline this will take place in is an event called the Age of the Free Emperors. So let's jump in and let's discuss this. Now, the evidence we have actually comes from GW itself. In their article the other day, they posted a digital map, of course, but they also posted another digital map which had some animation on it. And the animation was symbols popping up in certain areas of the empire. One was Sigismund, or Emperor Sigismund, as he becomes to be known. One was Ludwig of Reichland, and one was Margrethe of Marienburg, or Countess Margrethe of Marienburg. Now, these were big players in the time of the Age of the Free Emperors. Now, the Age of the Free Emperors takes place over a course of centuries. It doesn't take place in like 10 to 20 years or anything like that. It takes place over hundreds of years. Now, what happened is that in 1152, the then emperor, who was called Manfred Skavenslayer, his real name was Manfred von Zelt, but he was famous for defeating the Skaven, was assassinated by a so-called Skaven, everyone says. Of course, they wanted the vengeance. And what that led to is a lot of turmoil, because after his death, the Elector Counts couldn't decide who was then going to replace him and become the Emperor of the Empire. And since there was that vacuum of power, those who had the ambition to try and take that power went to war with each other. The Empire was, at this moment in time, fighting amongst itself. Of course, there's other forces out there that come into play, but mostly this is a very political time for the Empire itself. So that's why it's referred to the Age of the Free Empires, because there's a lot of people vying for that throne. Now let's harken back to the actual map itself and a certain individual, or a certain symbol, a certain individual / symbol, and that is Sigismund. You can see it, the wolf, that is Middenhelm, Ulrich, all that kind of awesome stuff which is connected to that. Now, there's been a couple of people which bear the name Sigismund when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy. One of the most well-known ones is Sigismund II, or as he's well known as, Sigismund the Conqueror. He was well known for changing the city of Reichendorf into the name of Altdorf, and he reinstituted the imperial government to the capital of Reichland. That's why on the map that they issued, this is Altdorf, so we know it's set after that Sigismund II. So I think this Sigismund is connected to Sigismund IV, and he is actually a fairly big character as well in the lore, because it connects to another big character in the lore who he actually fought against. And what I'm thinking is that if this actually does happen, and they do set it in this time, that this character may actually be like the main villain, or like the main baddie to actually fight against, or he's the main narrative that is causing all the destruction in the universe at that time. And that character is Goldberg Ironclaw, and he is a massive, well-known orc. He's probably one of the most famous orcs because he actually broke through into the Empire itself, and he absolutely devastated city after city. He basically destroyed Nuln, the realm of Solland was in despair, cities burning, people fleeing. He actually seized Altdorf itself, and that is where the big final battle happened on the walls of Altdorf between the Orc War and the armies of the Empire. You also have the potential of discussing some of the stuff with the vampire counts as well, because if I'm not mistaken, this is where the first wars of the vampire counts took place around this time zone. So it really opens up a whole new narrative event for Warhammer Fantasy to explore and engage into. And what I mean by that is that if this does happen, of course, if it happens, and this is all theory at the moment, we are going down the rabbit hole, as I like to say, but if this does happen, and they set it during this timeline, then they could explore different characters, different stories, different battles, different politics. Maybe they can do different campaign books. We've seen it, but what they've done with 40k when it comes to the Psychic Awakening, maybe this is a kind of marketing thing now that they could do, and really bulk out the history of Warhammer Fantasy. Because one of the main problems with setting it in the era that we're already familiar with is that we kind of know what happened. Well, it's not kind of. We know what happens. We've all lived through it. Me, as a Warhammer Fantasy fan, has lived through the end times. I know what happens to my favourite characters. I know if they live, they die, or they are reborn into something new, alas, Age of Sigmar. We know what tales are weaving into the fabrics of that history. But if they go back and they set it in this time, then again, they can explore different stories. They can potentially have some of the same characters around from certain areas. For example, the High Elves and the Dark Elves and stuff, they still probably have some of their main characters and all that kind of stuff around back then, because elves don't die. And you can still have them, bring them to the tabletop. But with other characters like the Empire, Bretonnia, for example, like Bretonnia, if I'm not mistaken, Bretonnia around this time is around 600 years old. So that is really, well, I say it's young, but it's just really started out, hasn't it? And I really don't know anything about Bretonnia around this time. So potentially they can, start telling new Bretonnia stories about a different king and everything that's involved with that. Again, with the dwarves, I know dwarves age very, very slowly and stuff. They're not immortal like the elves. But again, we can go down that road and introduce new dwarf characters and stuff. Ogres, orcs, as I've mentioned, Goldberg, Ironclaw. If it happens around this time, he's probably going to be the main one. But there's obviously got to be other characters attached to be around him and enforcing him and helping him. And that really means that GW then can start reselling the product by introducing these new characters. Now, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, does that mean that we're going to be getting new armies and stuff? I don't really see new armies being introduced. Yes, we will be getting new models. Again, GW confirmed that in their article. That was one of the massive main talking points of my previous video about this. That really got me hyped. I'm still hyped about it. But when it comes to new armies like we've seen with Age of Sigmar, I don't think we're going to be getting anything like that. Yes, hopefully we'll be getting a few different new units and stuff, but I think the main advantage of this is that we'll probably be getting brand new HQ characters, maybe updated HQ characters for certain races like the dwarves and the high elves and stuff. But for example, if it is set in this timeline and we do have Sigismund going around, then we'll get an Emperor Sigismund model. If we do have Goldberg Ironclaw, then of course we're going to get a Goldberg Ironclaw model. Again, you can apply that to Skaven and ogres and all the other races, Bretonians, the bloody Bretonian kingdoms. Who is the king at that time? He deserves a new model. All that kind of stuff that you connect with, and the big characters which we expect leading armies. I think those are the ones who will be getting the main focus when it comes to new models. The thing that excites me the most about this, and if it does happen, or maybe if it goes back even further, or just a bit before the actual story that we know now. Yes, I love Karl Franz. Yes, I love everything that happens. I love Goldtrex. I love Felix. I love all the lore connected around that time. But I absolutely would love to visit another part of the history of Warhammer Fantasy where I really don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know the main characters. I really don't know the main politics and all the battles that I never had a chance to take part in. That's what really excites me, and the potential for them to revisit me on the tabletop is just it really is. I've got a massive smile on my face just thinking about how awesome this potentially could be and what we could be given in the years to come, because that's what we've got now. I think we could all agree that this is at least 3 to 4 years out before we get anything massively released. I personally think it's going to be around the 4-year mark before we even see a rulebook released. Like, it's so far out. All we can do now is just talk about it, laugh about it, get hyped about it, and hopefully GW will trickle their information bit by bit through articles over on their website. And when they do that, of course, I'm going to be here hyping it up as I normally do, because I bloody love Warhammer Fantasy. Right, chaps, thank you for coming, thank you for watching. As always, leave your thoughts, feedback, everything like that in the comment section down below. Would you love it to take place in another time zone? Do you want it to go back to like the time zone where it's Karl Franz and just before the end times, all that kind of stuff that you grew up with, that you loved and stuff? Or are you like me? Do you just want to explore somewhere else, and hopefully we see Emperor Sigismund take the field and start slashing and purging the vile enemies of the Empire? And hopefully that means we can get some more stories surrounding other races and everything like that. Right, thank you for coming, thank you for watching as always. See you in a bit, and bye-bye.